Well folks, this was an easy one. It's fitting the double USB socket. I'll put a link in the description to the one I bought. It's supposedly waterproof, looks okay. It's got two USB ports and a little power adapter to step the voltage down from 12 volts. And there it is. It's got what appears to be a waterproof switch and a little rubber lid, and then you've got a twist connector there for the power supply and bare wires at the other end to connect up to whatever plugs needed. Now I'm going to use the double splitter that I made in a separate video, and I'll show that later on. So this is it with the handlebar mount on it. There's two. There's one that goes under the mirror, supposedly. It's like a click-in, slide-on thing. I've used the handlebar one. I don't really fancy that under my mirror, the actual mirror bolt, as it were. And so I've used the handlebar one. Now that's the little power box, which will be obviously a step-down transformer. Now, when installing this, I've left this outside the headlamp shell. I mean, it might just fit in there, but you know, it may quite probably generate heat, possibly. So it's outside the bike. Now the next photo here shows the handlebar clip in place, actually on it. The one above it is the mirror one, so it slides in. It's got some holes drilled in it, and I think the theory is that it goes underneath the mirror mount, the actual arm of the mirror, as it screws into the handlebar assembly. You get little screws and bolts and things to facilitate that, but I've gone for that, the one to go on the handlebars. Now this next picture shows the handlebar bracket from the top, and then the nut and bolt that's top at the screen there. The nut slides in and the screw goes in, obviously the screw hole there, and tightens it. It's perfect for a 22mm handlebar. It's gone straight on without having to muck about with bits of rubber and things, and it's really good tight fit. Here is the full kit there, and it looks okay actually. I mean, again, I can't speak for longevity. I don't know how long it's going to last. Maybe it won't. You know, they seem to sell a lot of them. It is, after all, a little transformer and two USB ports, so it's not massively complicated. This next shot shows the connectors I bought and did in a separate video about how to make a splitter from the power headlamp supply. The yellow plug in there that appears to go, it doesn't go anywhere. Well, that is a switch live. The switch for that is the ignition kill switch. If the ignition kill switch is off, you don't get power through it. So the ignition kill switch has to be on. So that's it mounted on the bike, minus the fairing. I've put it there for now. It may not be the right place. There's a little switch on it, a little waterproof switch, and I'm going to leave it there like that. And here's the next shot, shows the wiring in the headlamp, and you'll be able to see the splitter. So there it is. You can see the yellow block connector. That's the switched power supply that the ignition switch has to be on for, and the kill switch has to be on. And I made that splitter there, which I did in a separate video. And on the left hand side of that, you can see I've connected up the USB port adapter. And this next shot shows the wiring happily curled up out the way of the headlamp. There's a bit of spare on it. I could have cut some of it off actually, before soldering on the block connector, thinking about it, but I didn't. But it goes in, and I've left the power box itself outside just in case it gets warm or hot or whatever. So there it is. It's cable tied to the main wiring harness there. It doesn't interfere with anything when you turn the steering left or right, and I've made it so the actual connector itself is sort of under the headlamp shell, where hopefully there'll be less water. There is a different shot, look, you can see, just clipped on. The cable that's running across the top of that box is actually the Speedo cable that I replaced again in a separate video to cure this fluttering Speedo. So that's neat enough. It doesn't catch on anything, it's not doing anything it shouldn't. And this next shot shows the USB thing actually on, switched on. So the ignition key's on and the kill switch is on, and you can see a little LED there that lights it up. And I plugged in my phone charger before I put the headlamp and put it all back together and everything. I thought we'll give it a test and make sure that it actually does work. For how long I don't know, but you know, you don't know with anything, do you, really? So there it is. It's got a little red LED when it's powered. You can turn it off, of course, with a little square switch there and not have it on at all if you're not using it, which might be a good idea. Here is a shot of my phone charging up from the USB port, which is very handy on a motorbike, really, to have a power supply like that. If your phone goes dead, you just plug it into the bike. And the next shot shows the USB ports actually from the front. It looks bigger in this photo than it is because obviously it's very close to the camera, but it fits nicely in there, and it appears to be reasonable quality. The headlamp, the handlebar clamp had to be really opened up to get around. I thought, well, it snapped. No, it didn't. So that's it from the front, and this next shot shows it, the view from actually sitting on the bike. So it's not obtrusive. I think it's nicer looking than my gear position indicator, don't you think? I'm sure nothing could be much worse than that. So that's it with the lid open, and it certainly does work. As I say, with all of these things, you don't know how long they're going to work for. It may not. It took me about, including doing the little block connector, about half an hour. So it's not exactly a difficult job, especially with that handy connector in the headlamp, and there it is from the front. So it's not too in your face. I've got my fairing to go on, so that will mostly not even be seen anyway. And of course, you know, any gadget's got to be seen. So there it is. Easy project, done and dusted. I'll put a link in the description to the item that I bought on eBay, but there's plenty of other ones around, more expensive, less expensive, and I think it's worth doing, especially with the splitter and the headlamp. It makes it very, very easy if you've got the connectors, and again, I mentioned those in the video on how to make a splitter for the headlamp power supply. You could just have one plugged straight in, but I've done a link in that video if you fancy trying this project and you need the connectors. So there you go. In the meantime, ride safe, everyone. Keep it all shiny side up, as they say, and I will be posting soon, hopefully, about the camera project and the decelerometer, the automatic brake light. So take care and speak to you soon.